Okay, this morning we're going to visit with Barbara. She and I walked in at the same time, and she said, "This makes you think a lot," and yes, it does. And I'm looking forward to hear what she has to say. So, Barbara, why don't you begin by just giving us a little bit about your family of origin?
How much time do I have?
You have 1 hour.
I was born in Waterloo, Iowa. The middle child, my brother is 2 years older. My sister was a year and a half younger, and she has passed last year in just shortly, April 16, 2023. Bev left us personally and is in our memories. We lived in Waterloo till I was 7, and then we moved to Cedar Falls in October 1945. I have to talk about Rose Hill. I have generations of family in Rose Hill. My parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, and my great-great-grandparents. This is all on my mother's side. If you drive in the main road and stop at the first crossroad, you will see a stone that says Hayer, Hayyer. That is Hans, and then he married Elofsson, Sarah Elofsson. So that's Hans and Sarah, and they are my mother's great-grandparents. So anyway, I could go on too long with all of this. My parents are Raymond and Verna Smith, Verna Garber Smith. And they are they're next to my dad's parents, who are Georgia and Art Smith, or Arthur. He was always called Art, I think. So, yes. My dad's grandparents are in Davis City. My dad's grandfather on his mother's side was Dr. James B. Horner, and so they're, and my great-grandmother Smith was from Davis City. My grandmother was born in Davis City, and then it just goes on longer than I even know about, so I'm sure I'll proceed. When we were young and our family would visit grandparents here, we were at 127 North Silver. That's a block west and 1 block north. North. Sometimes that was known as the Garber House because my grandparents lived there a long time. But then after they moved to Independence, when Grandpa went into the World Church leadership, other families lived there. Janice DeBarth lived there when her dad was, she was Janice Simon, and her dad was president of the, and Herb Lively was another name that was there. I don't know who is there now, but it's a lot of memories. My grandpa Garber, mother's dad, was born in Indiana. It's called Bristol is the name of the town, wherever that is, for sure. And it was a very large family, and a lot of mouths to feed. And so he left home quite early. He was quite young. I want to say 12, but I'm not sure that's correct. at any rate, he left the family and was a farm worker, and traveled around asking for work at farms. He settled for a while in Bartlett, Iowa. If you ever know that doesn't even have people in it anymore, but it is on the map, and it's in Fremont County, across the river from the Council Bluffs area, across the Missouri River. So in southwest Iowa, he became acquainted with the church because of the people that he was working for. And later, he was baptized, and he learned about Graceland, and he wanted to go to Graceland. So that was a goal that he was able to accomplish. And then when he came here to be at Graceland, he met my grandmother. She was Minnie Edith Hare. I stopped to think which generation, which family am I talking about? She was a daughter of the Hare clan, and
How do you spell that name?
Hayer. The Hares and the Edelsons and the Downsons immigrated from Norway. So my heritage on my mother's side is definitely Norwegian. My dad's family, I think, came from England originally and came here from the east. And my great-grandfather was J.R. Smith. And the Smith men were cattle people. They raised, my grandpa raised white-faced Herefords, and we would visit his farm when we came to visit the family. He did not live on the farm. I'm digressing way back from my nose now. I hope I get this right. So the farm tenants that he had out east of the golf course was the Boswells. So yeah. Anyway, yeah. So Grandpa came here, and they stayed here considerably longer than other appointees did, but eventually they moved to Independence. But then when I graduated from high school, it was in 1956, and I came to Graceland. And I was at Graceland with Phyllis. She was there my second year. There you are. David and Janice Barth, Carl McGuire, Bill Russell, Howard Booth. So I went only the 2 years, and some of the Howard and Bill went on for the 4-year curriculum that was established at the end of my second year. So that makes in more involvement. It's really been interesting and lovely to think about all those things. So in my freshman year of Graceland, I was baptized by my Uncle Walter Johnson in January. It was a horrible blizzard. Uncle Walter and my Auntie Bertha, and my grandmother, Grandma Garber, came from Independence through that storm, and I forgot to check with I was baptized with 2 others, but they were both, Miley Hom, I think, was one, and she was from Hawaii. Did you know Miley?
Yes, I knew Miley.
Okay, she was baptized the same time that I was, and also I think the other one was a student from South Korea, Soo Kong Choi. And this may not be right, so don't quote me, but I was pleased that I was included in other nationality baptized at that time. So then in 1958, I finished at Graceland and I transferred to what is now UNI in Cedar Falls. It was, I think, Iowa State Teachers College, and sometimes it was named State College of Iowa, and it had changed names several times, but currently it is the University of Northern Iowa. And I finished there to have a teaching degree, and let's see. My first teaching was in Malvern, wasn't it? No.
Evansdale.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. I changed majors a freshman year at Graceland, and so I was a half a year off in terms of other schedules. I decided to be in education rather than home economics. That didn't suit me very well. I don't know why I even started that. Because I came from generations of teachers. So then I graduated from there mid-year and finished my first year. My first job of teaching was to finish a year for someone else who was leaving because she was pregnant. And I finished that year for those kids. It was second grade in Evansdale, Iowa, which is way out on the east side of the city.
It's a suburb of Waterloo.
Okay. I'm getting ahead of myself because you don't know how long this takes forever to get all these thoughts in a good order, and even then I'm messing it up. Okay.
Second page, I think there's another page here.
Thank you.
Not doing much better than that. It's there. I know it's there. Come here. There it is.
There we go. Okay. Okay. I don't need that one. Okay. Now it's important to let you know how I came to the Breshears. When I was in high school, Don was in Rock Island. His family had moved to Rock Island, Illinois. His dad was an appointee. He was missionary president of the area, I think. And so I knew Don's brother Bob and Don's father, W.J. Breshears, before I knew him. Because when I was back in Cedar Falls, W.J., that Don's dad, would be on a preaching circuit of I think it was Waterloo Clinton district at the time. And so he would come around on a schedule and was preaching in our branch. And then when I was at Graceland, I was in concert choir. I was a freshman, but Bob was there as a sophomore in the choir. And he was Bob Breshears, and I it didn't mean anything to me at all, you know, at the time. But when I went back home and I was in college at Cedar Falls, Mother and I were sitting in the church, and all the priests were out in the side and they would come in. You know how they was pretty formal in those days, always all suit and tie, and they came in during the prelude, and so these three preachers came in, and then another person came in, and I said, "Who's that?" And she said, he's Don Breshears. And I said, "Well, is he related to Bob Breshears?" She said, "Yes, he's his brother." And so, not surprised. Eventually, when Don was teaching in Waterloo at the time, but he also, not too long ago after that, he formed a choir and started leading a choir for our branch, and I was in the choir, and so there we are. We were married in June of 1961. Okay, where am I? Okay, that's all for now.
Okay,
What's your question?
okay, my question. Describe your journey of faith. Kind of how, yeah, turning point in your life that altered the course of your life. Your journey of faith.
Okay, the thing that I've always been pleased about and has given me a lot of evidence of conviction and committed to Christ was the fact that my mother was RLDS, but we're not Mormon, and my dad as Methodist. And so I feel like I represent two strong faiths in my family heritage. And my parents never discussed anything. They just were committed to one another and committed to raising their children, and there was never any disharmony about religion in our home. I'm just blessed with the examples of their commitment to who they were and to what church they should belong with, so that we just, by example, I learned from them just by knowing that Dad would go to his church on Sunday, we would go to ours and come home and have a wonderful pot roast dinner. Mother always did pot roast on Sunday noon. But sometimes he would say, well, he would talk a little bit about the sermon that they had, and you know, and so I'm blessed that I didn't have to live with arguments in our home at all. I also don't know, I know Lori talks a lot about her dad teaching her to pray. I was not taught to pray. My folks didn't tell me that this is how you do it. So that's just kind of come to me from my secure feeling that this is where I was, and this is who I am, and I just developed my own process of prayer.
So, did you ever go to church with your dad?
Yes. Yes, we went to church. They had vacation church school, and Bev and I were asked to come and do the recreation and you know, different things. It was very open both ways. And I will tell you this: when the Methodists had a communion service about once a quarter morning there, and so I went with them one time to that, and I was sitting with Dad, and they were getting ready to, you know, passed it, whatever they did. I don't remember exactly how they did it. Because I was so used to having us served by priesthood in our ranch. So I leaned over and I whispered to Dad and I said, Dad, am I supposed to take communion because I haven't been baptized? And he said, oh, yes. We had closed communion. My parents were never allowed to share communion together. So, yeah. What was your question?
You're doing the faith, you're talking about it.
Okay.
And how your views of God have changed over the years.
I guess it's just a matter of going along through the years and not really being very aware of it. I did learn a lot of things that were more firm to me at Graceland because I was in the church. They had chaplains in the dormitories, and I was selected to be a chaplain. And when I went to get baptized, I had to go to Royceville. And, you know, those kinds of things. It was just a whole process of
Who baptized you?
my Uncle Walter.
You said that.
Yeah. He was from Australia. And he came to Graceland and met my Annie Burt and got married. So, and he later was in the church leadership in the bishopric. Was actually a presiding bishop for a
Walter
time.
Johnson.
Yeah.
Signed my dad's paychecks.
Oh, he did?
Yes.
Okay.
I knew that name.
Yeah, there we are. Okay. I think the journey of faith really happens at times when you really need confirmation from God about because the very first Sunday school I went to was Methodist, a big Grace Methodist church in Waterloo. And I remember so well the nursery room that we were in because it had a nursery rhyme linoleum on the floor. And so we would go to church at first with my dad, and he wanted to sit by the choir loft. It was a big sanctuary, and he wanted to sit by the music people so he could enjoy that. He loved music. He always felt he wasn't any good, but and that he didn't have the pipes it took to sing. But he loved music a lot. And music was definitely a strong influence in our family. Mother played cello and piano, and she played with church a lot. In fact, our branch was fairly small, and so Mother was church school superintendent, and then one of the piano players, and not very many that were there that they could use to play the piano. And so she did just about everything. Yeah. But my journey really probably, if I were going to acknowledge anything, would be as an adult, and we had times that were very, very difficult. And then how do you recover from that? Well, you just wait, and things get figured out.
Well, you're talking about a little bit. Can you share a little bit about some of the trials that you had and how you did get through them?
Yeah, when Don lost his job at Graceland, that was huge. And we ended up moving to Independence for 1 year. My Aunt Annie Bird was going to be in Australia, and she had a house on in the near the Perkins restaurant. There was a lot of houses down there, and so we lived in her house while she was gone, and that was very a blessing that we did that. But we just weren't sure what to do next. And I was walking one morning in the neighborhood and thinking about all of this, and I realized I was asking the wrong questions. I had read a book, When Bad Things Happen to Good People, and you can't really get an answer sometimes to the why of things, and it impressed me that rather than ask why did this go on, why are we doing what we're doing and what happened, is you figure out your response to what happened. It doesn't matter what happened to you. What matters to me, I should say me, is that how do you respond to any kind of difficult situation? So we just, after we were there for a while, when Joseph was attending Truman High School, he didn't like it because it was huge. And he had been going to school in Lemoyne and missed friends and so forth. Kathy was going to Bridger, is it Bridger Junior High? Yeah. And so finally, we just decided or talked about, why don't we just go back to Lemoyne? And we did. We were there for about a year, came back, and had a different house, of course, because we had sold our house on Cherry Street. And we rented a house from Fritz Boswell, I think it was Fritz. There were so many Boswell brothers, but it's the house right at the corner past the sale barn. There's horses there, and there's a kennel there, and yeah. But it was just a house for their home for a while too. And then the next neighbor to the east was Clarence Sneed. Yeah. So anyway, when we talked to the kids about moving back, Joseph said, I would love to go back. Because Lemoyne, there's just no place like Lemoyne. Anyway, at the same time, our oldest, Anne, was in Graceland as a student. She started Graceland the year that we left. So anyway,
So you came back.
So we came back, and Don was able to get a job at the school. Larry Sturgis was a superintendent at the time, and he called and he said, can Don drive a school bus? I said, yeah, he'd been driving so he had a job driving a school bus. I don't remember what I did, actually, when we came back. Because I had taught, oh yes I do. I'm sorry, folks. This, while we were here the first time, I was teaching in Eagleville. I taught there 5 years. And then when I came back, I taught at Ridgeway. So I drove down to Ridgeway.
What did you teach?
In Eagleville, it was kindergarten. And 1 year I had third grade, and then I had kindergarten again. But in Ridgeway, it was first and second grade. And so I remember wanting to get on at Lamoni, which was really kind of an interesting thing. I'm really digressing here from what I thought I was going to be talking. I remember being interviewed by Larry Sturgis, and he said, "What do you think is the most important skill or whatever that you should teach with children?" And I remember saying communication skills, especially listening and phrasing your talk like you will be not offending anyone and so forth. I don't know why I remember that, but I do. So anyway, after the Ridgeway experience, I was actually hired when David Kleinfelder was superintendent. And I taught in Hawaii in reading for 20 years. My favorite thing to do is to have kids read. Okay, so yeah, I think what to answer your question about however you phrased it, often if I'm facing something pretty difficult, I could pray about it, yes, but I just try to be patient. And eventually things will become clear on what the next thing is and how to go about it and so forth. I do a lot of just pondering.
Talk about when you first came to Lamoni. How did you get to Lamoni? You were over there in Waterloo. When you and Don got married, did you live there? And then
No.
Okay.
When we got married, my first job was in Malvern, Iowa. We lived there 2 years. Don taught music, no surprise. I taught kindergarten. And then after that, he went to graduate school in Iowa City. And we knew the clothiers at that time, I think. Yeah, we were in Iowa City how long? 3 years? Or do you remember?
I didn't get what you said.
How long were we in Iowa City?
About 3 years, yeah.
And you got your doctorate in choral music. And then we went to Arkansas for 2 years, and he was teaching at Arkansas State University in Jonesboro. And our daughter Kathy was born while we were in Jonesboro. So then you went to Conant High School after that, back up in Illinois. You came back and you taught at Conant. So it's a journey. Yeah.
So how did you get to Lamoni?
Which time?
Yeah, I don't know. You tell me.
The first time,
Is that when Don landed his job at the college?
yes. We were in Illinois when we were in, he was teaching at Hoffman Estates, and we lived in Elgin, near Elgin, Illinois, and then we came here to Lamoni.
What year was that?
Oh, 1975.
75.
Barbara,
Yes.
I remember a really amazing story you told about when you were living in, or had taught kindergarten in Malvern, and years later, you were stranded. Do you remember I don't want to tell the story because I want you to tell it.
Was it a winter?
Yes.
Oh. Yes, I had
It
gone,
had to do with you teaching in Malvern, I believe.
or I had been. I think I was finished, but the memory is there, yeah. My parents were needing help, and my mother particularly, so I would go home sometimes from Cedar Falls from Lemoyne to Cedar Falls. And one day, when I was driving back, had no clue that this could happen, of course. I stopped in Des Moines for a break, and then I started on back down I-35 to get back home. And I hit a storm coming north. It was awful. I was driving a pickup truck, for one thing, rather than the car. And so the snow was coming so hard and fast that the wipers would not keep the windshield clear. So I got out of the truck, and sort of did what I could to get the windshield open. Oh, I went off the road one time, and there was, for some reason, I think there must have been guys, I don't know why, in the ditch, and they pushed me back on to the road a little bit, and then after that, I got off to get to the windshields done.
At the Grand River exit.
I think so. And so I just decided I would walk. There's a farmhouse at the top of that exit road. Dale, where's Dale?
Right here behind you.
I didn't know I was going to get into this. This is really something. I was going to walk to that farmhouse and knock on the door and ask if I could call Don. So I began to walk up the ramp, and someone came along beside me in the car and said, "Ma'am, can I take you somewhere?" And I got in the car and I explained that I'm just going up this foot. Well, actually, I got in his car and we drove down to the Leon exit, and Dale was chief of police, and he was there at the time, but that's not yet. Because in between, I started, I'm glad you said that, Lou. I started visiting, of course, and I explained that I was, had been a teacher in Malvern, Iowa. And he said, "Malvern, Iowa? What is your name?" I said, "Barbara Breshears." And then there was this pregnant pause in the car. And he said, "Mrs. Breshears, you were my kindergarten teacher."
Oh my God.
So he took me to the Leon exit, and we got off at the station that isn't there anymore. But Dale was there, and I can't remember just how it happened, but it turned out that I told him that my truck was back at Gray River exit. And did you drive it, or did somebody else? No, I think you just were there.
Joseph and I came up there and picked you up.
Yeah.
And Dale escorted us back to the Grand River exit.
Okay. Oh, yes, all right. Do you remember?
Vaguely.
A couple of years ago.
You don't have to remember. I just, I had forgotten all about that. I'm glad it's been able to be part of the story because I think it's just so evident to me that we have angels and shepherds. And I don't know how to be grateful enough for that. I just don't know. So Joseph brought me back home and drove whatever you drove home. We didn't come together. But the next day was my birthday. I call that my 2/12/89 story. I think it was 89. And so I tried to reach this young man. He told me that he was working at Maryville University in one of the dormitories, I think, or something. And I sent him tried to send him, I said to send him a note. And I tried to call him, I never could reach him again. So life goes on. But anyway, yeah, that's a very important story, and it didn't occur to me to even tell you that. So thank you, Lou.
Now, you did prepare some other things you said I hadn't asked about. Do you know what those were that you wanted to share? Okay, well, if not, tell us about your children, your grandchildren.
How much time do I have?
We still have 10 minutes.
Our oldest is Anne Evelyn Breshears Chapman. She met her husband Jeff Chapman at Graceland. They were both music majors. They're both music teachers, and she has now she's all right. They're going to retire this year, and she had some kind of a site which is a countdown to retirement.
Oh.
So she's able to, thank you. Oh, Marie.
She's an angel right there.
An angel, yeah. Anna and Jeff have two sons. Ryan, who is a music teacher, and Kyle, who works on cars. They're both in their 30s. Joseph married Julie Holes. They met in kind of in the Livingston group, I think, born in Graceland. They have 3. Our granddaughter is, we call her Cisna, and she married the younger son of Susan Livingston. Okay, he goes by Dode in their community. They're on the land and doing well. They love it. So they grew up together. Hello.
I see him all the time, actually.
Yeah, Bryce knows. So anyway, they were married and still live there, and they have 5 children. So we have 5 great grandchildren. Then our younger daughter is Joseph and Julie have two sons. Yeah, younger than Cisna. Asher is in South Dakota, and Clark is in Cedar Rapids, and they are both doing really well. They have all kinds of plans for things they want to build.
An incredible talent. They're both so talented.
Yeah, did you know about their violins?
Yes, I've heard him play.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay. So we have 5 adult grandchildren and 5 great-grandchildren. But I haven't named Kathy. Kathy she lives in Henderson, Nevada, but has been teaching for 20-some years in Las Vegas. And her story is long. She was in Japan for 4 years. And she kind of really became fond of the culture and language, and so now she teaches Japanese language in Las Vegas. So yeah, have I named everybody? I think so. Our Ann was born the 26th of March in Council Bluffs. That's when we were living in Melbourne. And so the 5th baby for Tisna and Dode was due in March. And she was born on Ann's birthday. And so they are really bonded. And now she is a year old. Have you seen her recently, Bryce?
Yeah. They all come down. My son owns an auction house, Almy's auction house, and they all come out from the community and play pickleball down there. They got 2 pickleball courts down there, basketball court and
everything. They get to come in when Joseph and Julie have bought an acreage outside of Osceola, and so it's wonderful for the kids because it's trees, and they have a pond and a raft on the pond, and they just really enjoy being together. And that being together makes me want to tell you that I guess this is one of my core values, is relationships. And for a time, we were really struggling with our family that was on the land, and we just waited. We prioritized the relationship with them and didn't make a big deal out of the fact that they were where we really would rather they were not, with the group there. But those people are good people. They are wonderful people out there. And so Don was making this a matter of prayer, and he was impressed that the only thing and the best thing that we should do is just to love them, which we did. And then Joseph and Julie and Clark and Asher left the land in April of 2011. I think that's right. And now they have all got new journeys that they're on, and the relationship within the family is just perfect. We get together in the fall because the land that Joseph and Julie have is loaded with things to do. They have an apple orchard, they're planting cherry trees, they have a big garden. It's perfect for Joseph and Julie. Julie was raised on a farm in Greene County, and she just really loves to plant and take care of nature. They have deer and wild turkeys and raccoons and skunks, and so in the fall they pick the apples and gather them all into the garage, or actually it's a huge garage. Have you ever been there, Bryce? You've never? Oh, you should go sometime. And so Julie, according to Joseph, Julie is an internet sleuth. It's a what he called it. And she found a apple grinder, cider making thing, yeah, somewhere. And so they bought it, and I don't know where it was. They had to travel somewhere to get it. And we have an apple day every fall. And we grind and make cider, and the kids play, and
It's a big wooden press. They dump all the apples in.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's so fun. And then we have applesauce, apple cider, and
Right. Oh,
apple pie. The last year, our oldest great-granddaughter is, she was born, and they named her Elizabeth Grace, which I love. But they call her in the community, her name is Nelda. And Nelda is 12, I think, 12, going to be 12, 13. And so last fall, after we had apples and something to eat, she's in the kitchen making all by herself a wonderful apple pie. Because the children grow up in their community learning everything. And so I'm just thrilled with the way our family is. We are very, very blessed. The end.
no.
The
No. Tell me what the church has meant to you. Your involvement in the church.
Well, the church has been, for me, has been a way, a method, a process of serving. You know, I just, I watched my parents, both the Methodist and Community of Christ, know how to be aware of people that need things, need support or a ride someplace or whatever. They were just always alert to what they could do for others. And it was a good example for me. And I don't consider that I'm active in my priesthood as a priest in terms of physically visiting other people, because that's very difficult for me anymore. But I like to send notes. I like to make phone calls. I just like to be in touch and say, how are you doing?
And it means a lot to us.
Okay.
The end.
How about last words of wisdom for people who are seeking a relationship with God? What would you say to them?
I would tell them to listen. Listening is huge for me. I really think it is the primary challenge we have, is to know that, yeah, all kinds of things are happening and our world is hurting. But personally, we need to listen to what God would want us to do in our own little sphere of influence.
Anybody else have a question? Yeah,
Can I make a statement? You taught me one thing years ago. You said, don't tell a child or tell someone, I'm proud of you, because that instills this, just say, I'm pleased with you. and I have thought about that so often over the years.
Because pride is more
Yeah,
negative.
I'm better than you.
Coming before I fall, I heard.
Barbara, I wanted to ask you about, this seems to be my typical question, but when you saw Don You started to be in his space. What was that like? Was there electricity? Did it take long to fall in love?
Still working on that part.
Ignore what he said.
When you finished falling in love, I'm gonna have a conversation with your husband.
I don't know anything particularly, there was a turning point. We just grew together, I guess.
What attracted you to him?
Being in his choir in church.
And what made you like him over all the other people in the choir?
He was cuter, right? I don't know.
So good looking and intelligent.
I just kind of, I don't know if this is true, but I'm sure that I like to think that it is. We were spirit led to be together. Does that answer you? I feel like we were just brought together by the Spirit. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, partly because I am a fairly patient person, particularly where Barbara is concerned. She has a completely different persona in public here than what we have at home. She's often quite crabby with me.
Oh, okay, that's enough. Time out.
That concludes today's broadcast. We thank you all for.
I think it's partly because of the coping that we need to do now.
Yes.
Don is almost 90. I am 86. And getting older is not fun. And yes, I tend to be crabby. My voice quality tends to sound sharp. I don't mean to be sharp in my voice, but it just happens that way sometimes. And our 63rd wedding anniversary is in June.
Wow.
Wow, that's wonderful. Well, Barbara, I have always appreciated you, and one of the things I really appreciated is you helped our son. I don't know if you remember, but you tutored David.
I do.
Yes, when because he was having so much trouble, and you were so patient and so wonderful with him, and I've always appreciated that. I appreciate many things about you. I'm so glad we were able to listen to you this morning. Thank you. Please fill out your cards and